RWBY Volume 7, Episode 6, A Night Off. So, I have officially reached the divisive episode of the volume. It's probably going to be the most divisive one. We'll see what happens in the second half of this volume, and kind of going forward, I've caught up to the mid-season, I guess you would kind of like the mid-season finale, sort of. So we'll see what happens, going into the new year, but this is the episode that's kind of split people. Some people are happy, some people are not. Mostly, like, a lot of the reviews I saw, people just kind of hate this episode. I'm kind of in the camp of being annoyed as well, and I will talk about that. That'll be, like, the last thing I say, because it's the bulk of the review, is just talking about how annoyed I am with the very specific scene. But around the kiss, around the Renora kiss. Also, I chose RWBY because RWBY was at the party. So, like, none of the main girls did anything, but RWBY was there, so she gets the showcase, the pillow showcase for this review. So, of course, after everything that's kind of gone down, it's like, all right, everyone take some time off. The elections are tonight. Just relax. Just do whatever you want. So, of course, Blake and Yang go off and do their thing. They're going to dance. Weiss doesn't want to deal with any human interaction, so it's like she ends up choosing to go with Jean and Oscar to the movies. And so we have RWBY going with Nora and Ren, and they decide to actually go to the election night. So they're at Robin's party. It's like, all right, this is going to be her election party. Let's just relax. Let's have a good time and kind of just see what happens. Penny is also there. She is there to kind of guard. So is the Faunus from Aesop's. I'm still kind of trying to remember like all the different names for all those people. So he is there, and Penny is also there. They've been sent to kind of help save Robin, or kind of protect her. And so things are kind of going through. We have, of course, the Nora Ren stuff, which, like I said, I'll save. But then, of course, we have the end of this episode, which is Tyrian is revealed, or at least he's spotted by RWBY, and then, of course, the lights shut off. And so a bunch of people start getting killed. People just start getting stabbed left and right. Eventually, Penny, she clicks on the night vision. She realizes, oh, it's Tyrian. She tries to protect everybody. She's not, there's nothing to protect. I mean, she was trying to do something. Now that I think about it, I'd have to rewatch the episode. It's been a minute. But she kind of was just on the stage looking. And I think she kind of did nothing until Tyrian jumped on the stage and was going after Robin. And then, of course, she went up there. And I guess that was the whole point. He wasn't actually going to hit her. The point was to go up there and then have Penny kind of jump in. And then he takes off. And then, poof, the lights come back on. And it's chaos. It's like all these people are dead. And, surprise, Jacques is the winner. Because, of course, things were being manipulated. And even through the episode, I was like, okay. They showed it where it was like, at first she was at like 62% or something, and as they kept showing it, it was getting closer and closer. I was like, she's going to lose. And then it was like, oh, of course she's going to lose. It's being manipulated. But, the lights switch back on. It's like, oh, crap, all these people are dead. Penny, you did that. Because, of course, they have this weird tension between Ironwood and Robin, and them kind of believing that Ironwood is sending people out to have her people killed and stuff like that. And some people pointed out in like other reviews, I didn't think of it when I saw the episode, but people definitely pointed that out, and I was like, it is kind of weird that you would send Penny there, even though they have these weird reservations. But of course, you probably wouldn't expect that sort of thing. Like, you wouldn't expect someone to go in and frame you like that, because they didn't know anything was going on. They didn't know what the heck was happening. They knew that they were, somewhat being framed for murders, a little bit here and there, which that in itself kind of does warrant, like, a bit of a difference. But at the same time, is like, I think the reason that it kind of works is because that Ironwood trusts this woman, because it's like, clearly he wants her to win, but also at the same time, the other person was Jacques, so it was like, the devil, that sort of thing. Although I guess in this case it wasn't, because he knows Jacques way better than he knows Robin. But it was like, he knows who's better. Everyone did. So it was like he wanted Robin to win, so it kind of made sense he wanted to protect her, because he knew something was going on. Like, people were killing her people, so in that regard, it does make sense that he'd send Penny there. It's like, of course we're going to protect you, because people have been killing your people, and it makes sense that someone would come after you. So it does kind of make sense that they would send RWBY, or that they would send Penny. So in that regard, it's like, yeah, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, I can see it kind of making sense. They didn't do a scene for it, but it's like, it does kind of make sense that he would do that for protection's sake, and kind of, if it succeeded, it probably would have actually proved that he wasn't, killing off her people left and right and just kind of leaving them in alleys and stuff. So unfortunately, it didn't work, and then it just kind of lended towards, like, hey, Ironwood's trying to, kill me. It's also dumb that anyone would think that Penny did that, because she's a robot that has flying swords, and is like, well, if she was trying to kill you, first off, if anyone wanted you dead, just to put this out there, why in the world would they kill random people in the crowd and then not kill you at the end? Like, she was on top of her. What are they gonna do? Be like, oh, the light shut off and everyone saw me. Like, you already thought I was the one doing it anyway. But also, it's really stupid to kill a bunch of random people in the crowd and then I'm gonna jump on the stage at the last minute and kill you. It's like, no, if I wanted to kill you as a super advanced robot who has, like I said, flying swords and laser beams, she could just kill her right there in the darkness and no one would know. So it kind of didn't even make sense that, it was the heat of the moment, but it was kind of like, if you really think about it, it's also dumb that they instantly assumed that. Like, I know that they had their suspicions going into it because it was like, our people are dying. They just assumed it was Ironwood doing it. At the same time, though, they never really confronted him. Like, of all the times they've had the weird interactions, the few times that we've seen Robin, they never flat out had her say anything like, hey, I think you're killing my people. I don't trust you. I don't want you here. Like, even that in itself would have been a scene to have. But once again, they didn't have that either. So it's kind of weird on both sides. But like I said, in the heat of the moment, it was like, sure, they still just thought it was Penny. And of course, there's fake footage being doctored as Tyrion's kind of going through wiping people out. They're kind of doctoring that footage and making it look like it's Penny doing it. So it's just really crazy. Like, just in the moment, it was like, this is just all wrong. Like, there are just a lot of dumb thoughts going on here. RWBY couldn't do much. Some people complained about that. For me personally, I just saw it as it was pitch black. It was just like in any TV show where they're like, man, I can't see a thing. But obviously we can see them because they're filming the show. Otherwise, if we saw what they saw, it would literally be nothing. It would have been just a blank screen. So that's how I took it during the action scene. Like, no one could actually see what was going on. People were just kind of scrambling in general. So, no one could actually see what was happening. Now, that being said, a great point that was brought up was how faunas should be able to see in the dark because they are animals. Specifically, a guy who is a fox, because he has a fairly long tail. Didn't seem like a dog tail. Foxes can certainly see in the dark. I don't know about sheep, but I'm quite certain foxes can. So, a little weird. There that he wouldn't be able to do anything, especially considering his semblance, that he wouldn't be able to see into the crowd like, oh, there's this dude with a mechanical tail just stabbing people and killing them, and just slow him right down, and then everything's good to go. So that was weird, because I'm pretty sure he can, specifically because he's that specific type of faunus. Most animals in general can see in the dark, but especially when it's a fox, I'd be like, yeah, he can see. He can see right now when it's pitch black. That guy can see. So, there's my thoughts on that part. So, the few little things that don't work there. But ultimately, it's chaotic, and it's like, oh man, people are dead, Jacques is won, chaos, and then, rioting. So I was like, all right, that's just how it is. That's how it is. And then, of course, we have the main thing for this episode. Now, this is why I'm just annoyed. I'll say it right off the top. The simplest way to put it, I already thought that Nora and Ren were a couple. That's why I thought them having that argument and them having the dramatic kiss and the camera spinning and all that, that's why I hated it. I thought it was really stupid because I was like, aren't they together already? Didn't they already say that in the last volume when, Nora was like, get your hands off my man when they were fighting Cordova? I was like, oh, okay, so they just made it official. And that was fine because that kind of works for their characters to not kind of blow it up. Like, it makes sense to blow it up in Nora's perspective, but considering how much she cares for Ren, it makes sense that it would be subdued. And I also thought they already kind of showed it when they killed the Nuclevive. They're flying in the ship at the end of volume 6. He grabs her hand and she puts her head on his shoulder. And I was like, that, for me at least, was perfect. That was them getting together because it's the reserved character making the move, and then the bombastic character, obviously being Nora, making, having a reserved reaction. Like, Ren doesn't make the moves, but he did. He grabbed her hand, and that was him being very forward, and because he was very forward, they made Nora very subdued. It was very forward for him, at least. So she was very subdued. So instead of making a big reaction out of it, like, holy crap, you grabbed my hand, she just held his hand, and she scooted closer to him and put her head on his shoulder. And in that moment, I was like, that, I think, is the perfect, signifier that they're a couple now. They don't actually have to say it. That kind of shows it. That was always their thing, was that, like, they've always been together, but they're not in a relation. They're not together. But that was it. That was that moment where I thought they are now together. And I still kind of thought they would talk about it a little bit more, but they never did. And then, like I said, they had the line. And I was like, okay, so they are making it official that they're an actual couple. And I was like, that's totally fine. Even if they were main characters, considering their personalities, it works. It honestly, like I said, I truly think that was perfect. If they were just a couple from that point on, I would be like, yep, they wouldn't have to have said it because it fits their characters. Him making that move and then her having a reserved reaction, it was in the middle. It was them coming together and having kind of a slight role reversal. He wasn't as bombastic as Nora would be, but that was it, and they were together. And then this volume comes along, and I'll say this, until this episode, I thought it was just Ren being Ren again. I thought it was just his personality. Like, he wasn't trying to be, like PDA. Some people are not big on public displays of affection. That's Ren. To a T, I would totally get that. If he always was like, oh yeah, we should get to work. That works. I would just see that as, oh, that's just Ren being Ren because he gets really shy and he doesn't want to, like, kiss Nora in front of other people. That's what I thought was happening. Like, when she compliments him on his costume and he's like, we should get to work. Like, even something like that, I was like, that's him being shy. That's Ren being the quiet, introverted character that he is. And so, it kind of upset Nora because she kind of just wanted that little moment from him, but he still didn't do it because he's just that shy character. And so he's still just doing his thing. I think even in the montage, there was a specific scene where something happened and he kind of just was like, oh, okay, let's keep going. And I that's how I saw it. That's how I was looking at it, where it was like he was just still being shy and reserved. He hadn't gotten to the point where he could do it. But the way they made it seem, well, it's not the way they made it seem. It's literally what they said. They have the conversation about, Blake and Yang, like, are they a couple? Are they not a couple? They've been through so much together. They'd be a bit more than friends, right? So them having that conversation obviously wasn't about actually Blake and Yang. Like, are they really a couple? It was them kind of using them to talk about themselves. And then, of course, Nora kisses Ren. And it's like, now we're officially together. And I was just annoyed because I was like, how are they not already together? Why have that line? Because if someone says, I'm their man, if I'm not, I'm going to cut that junk off. I'm going to be like, do not say that. Don't let people think that we're in a relationship. We are not. We're not. Ren would do that. If that was the case, Ren would have done that because it's weird. I mean, maybe he just didn't hear her. That's totally possible. He was like, that was the point of her shooting. She had to shoot from far away. So maybe, he just didn't hear her, so he didn't have anything to say. But it was such a weird moment to even throw that line in. That is such a direct statement. Like, when someone says, get your hands off my man, it's like, okay, that's a relationship. So it was weird to me that they were kind of going back and forth. Because like I said, they didn't do much on it after they held hands. But I was okay with that. I was like, all right, they just didn't really talk about it. And I just kind of assumed, yeah, they're just together. And like I said, it was subdued. They're, as main as they are a part of, like, the second most important team. They're still the side characters. It's Team RWBY. But I was like, sure, it works for them. They had that epic moment. They had the hand-holding moment. And I was like, yes, that scene works. I like it. That's them together. I'm okay with it if they don't, like, fully go into it. But then they had the line where, like, say, get your hands off my man. I accept that. That is them officially canonizing that relationship. That's all it takes. Because, like I said, anyone who's not in a relationship shouldn't say that sort of thing. So then them having that conversation, like, well, what are they after such a long time? I was like, how is this a conversation that's even remotely happening? It was just so dumb to me. And it just annoyed me. I love them as a couple. It's just the writing. It's the same thing with the Bumblebee stuff. I just hate how they did it. I like this volume more than everything they've done for Blake and Yang because it's not necessarily subtle because they're just together the whole time. But at least it's like they're together the whole time. So it makes sense that they'd be a couple. And I think that's technically still up in the air. I don't know. I would say that they're a couple. You killed a dude together. You're a couple now in my universe. And I was mad. I think I said it in my review for the last volume. They didn't even after that moment, they still don't officially just say it. And I was like, that's what infuriates me the most is like when you go through these moments. For Nora and Ren, I didn't think they needed to say it because they had that moment, like I said, him holding her hand, which was something he just never did. That was signifying it to me. That made sense. For Blake and Yang, I feel like they would have to say it. Like, Blake is subdued, but not nearly as much as Ren, where she just doesn't talk. So, and obviously Yang isn't as dramatic. Like, they're both in the middle of what, Ren and Nora are. Like, it's super, super introverted, super, super extroverted. And so that's, Ren is one end, Nora's the other end. And in the middle, you have Blake, and then you have Yang. So for them saying it, I was like, all right, I kind of want them to actually talk about it. And plus, they're main characters, so they just kind of, when you're on that level, you get extra dialogue to specifically talk about relationship stuff. And they still didn't make it like an official thing. So hopefully, since they did it this way, they won't do that again for Blake and Yang. They'll just be together, or they'll just freaking kiss at some point. They do the kiss, or they just say something. I don't know. It's kind of annoying still to me, because I'm like, they do the most dramatic stuff, and then suddenly, this is the perfect example with Nora and Ren. Two seasons later, they're talking about how they're a couple. They're still not a couple, and I'm like, how are you not? You had this dramatic moment, and you're talking about it. Well, I guess it's not 2 years later. Obviously, it's 2 years for us, but for them, still after everything that they've gone through, you didn't talk about it when you were kind of in the house or any of the other stuff you guys were doing before the last volume, where they were dealing with all of that extra stuff there. Like, they had a lot of time to be like, what are we? What is happening here? And they just didn't. And then suddenly, 2 seasons later, it's like, well, are we a relationship? Are we not? And, Nora has to go in for the kiss to signify that they're actually a couple, because it would make sense if it was just an argument where it was like, I just want you to show, that we're a couple. Like, because she's so extroverted, he's so introverted. And then they just, she does that kiss, and then maybe she would just kind of realize, like, all right, I can't force you to do that. And it would just be an argument just for the sake of, like, public displays of affection. But for it to be the conversation of are we or are we not a couple seems so crazy to me after everything that they've already done and even put into the show, including dialogue. I know I'm sticking on one line, but that's a pretty big deal to have that line in there. And then it's like they have a conversation in the next volume, like, well, are we a couple or are we not? And that just seems weird. So for me personally, it was totally right. Just the way it was written, I just thought it was dumb. There's no reason they should be having a conversation at this point about whether or not they are in a relationship after the things they've done and the scenes they've had. The hand-holding thing is one, which I still think is literally the perfect way to show that they're a couple, was that scene. Like, that just could have been it, and then they could have kissed in the background, and I would have been like, okay, yeah, I knew they were together. Like, of course they were together. Like, the last 2 volumes, and you watch that stuff, it would be like, yeah, of course. And then this comes along, and it's almost like none of that stuff even happened. Even though it was only 2 moments, there were huge moments for those characters. Or at least the handling thing was, the line was just funny, but it was like a relationship line. So to have those 2 moments to call on, and then it's just like, I would just wipe that stuff away. Like, they should have just been together after they literally killed the thing that brought them together in the first place. That's when the world knows that you're a couple. You killed that thing that literally brought you together in the first place. That's it. They're a couple now. That would have been it. Like I said, I literally could have seen them kiss in the background at some random point. I would have been like, oh, that's the first time they've kissed on scene. That's funny. But, they've been a couple. And it almost would have been perfect to do that, too. Like, of course they're a couple. And then they just kiss in the background. It's like, oh, there they are. That's technically their first kiss on scene. But it just is what it is. Because they've been a couple. For as far as I was concerned, they've been a couple for like 2 volumes. And then it was official towards the end of the last one. But I was always like, yeah, they're a couple now because of, what happened. And then it was just, I don't know, maybe I was alone. I don't think I was alone based on how some people are annoyed by it. But it might not be for the exact same reasons. I still think the writing for it was dumb, but it's just the circumstance as a whole that it was even a question that they were in a relationship after everything that was done. It's not even them talking about, trying to use Blake and Yang as the example. It's the fact that they even had that entire moment as the conversation it was. Like I said, if it was an argument for, why can't you show people in public that we're together or stuff like that, I'd be like, sure, I can see that, because Nora, might be a little upset. Like, it feels weird that you won't show people in public. It's almost like you don't really want to be with me and stuff. That would have been totally fine. I would be like, I could see that. But them having an argument as to whether or not they're even remotely a couple, it just doesn't work to me. It made no sense whatsoever after everything they've been through. It was like they should have had this conversation 2 volumes ago when they did the hand-holding thing, or at least towards the beginning of volume 6, or volume 5, I guess, when they like first got to, was it Haven that they went to back then? I can't even remember. They've been all over. I just can't even keep track of stuff anymore. But that's something they should have talked about way back then. When they were chilling in the house, everybody was doing jack shit. That's when they should have had that conversation. Like, after everything we've been through, are we really a couple? Are we not a couple? They just were maxing, relaxing, having tea. That's when they should have had that conversation. That's when they should have done it. But that's my thoughts on that. I enjoyed the episode ultimately overall. But that was a big thing because it was supposed to be this epic moment, and I was just like, well, they've already been together, or so I thought. I must be dumb. So it was just like I just was so annoyed by it because it was like this shouldn't be this moment. So that's my thoughts on it. Well, let's know what you guys thought about the episode in general. Of course, I had to get my thoughts out there on it. I love that they're a couple. I just thought they always were. So it annoys me that suddenly they are. I was like, that's just me. I just thought they were for like 2 volumes, and then suddenly now they are. So it was just weird to me. But that was my thoughts on that. As a whole, outside of that, as a whole, entertaining episode. See where it goes. We'll see what happens. We'll see the trust and the the blame where it gets spread and how things get even more chaotic right now. But overall, it was an alright episode. That just really bugged me. So those are my thoughts on it. Of course, I would love to know what you guys thought. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts. Of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about them having their kiss. The kiss was fine. Like I said, it was literally the conversation of them questioning whether or not they're in a relationship was just the weird part to me. So I don't know what you guys thought about that and the episode as a whole. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.